friends, I'm going to show you some cool models. I'm going to show you some cool models from the game ATO Trespass Odyssey, and we can decide which one I want to paint. Let them go, Tops. Just let it go. Be like Elsa, mate. Alright. So, in the very first thing you fight is this guy. Wow, I've done a good job there, didn't I? Just fucking relax your shit, will you? This guy's called the Hecaton. G'day, Robbie's Hobbies. Now, the basic premise of this game is that it's an alternate timeline Greece. And there's some futuristic shit in there. This guy's pretty cool. I like him. However, what I think I'm going to do is play the second chapter, because I played the first one and I feel like the first one's very introductory. The second one was really epic, so I might play the second one. This guy's a dude called the Hermesian Pursuer, and he chases you around. He's like a little moth guy. To give you an idea of the scale, this is a Greek ship. They're called triremes, or biremes, depending on which ship you're referring to. So that's and then the other one you basically fight in the first one is, where is he? He's not in this, oh there he is. The Labyrinthoros. Yeah, it is. This guy, the Labyrinthoros. So he's like the bull. So the first cycle is all about the island of Crete. And so this is like the Minotaur. And it's all about the labyrinth. It's a very, very good retelling of Greek mythology. And if you know anything about Greek mythology, which I do, it was very, very cool, because they sort of brought historical players into the story in fun and unique ways. Well, there's a number of Greek heroes that come into the story in a tremendous way that I highly recommend. So in chapter 2, you fight this guy who's called the Nietzschean, and he's a fire dude, and that's a normal human down the bottom. That's a human-sized chap. So we definitely want to paint him. We need to paint him. The next dude that you fight in that same chapter is this guy, and this is the one I think we're going to paint right now. He is called a what is he? He's not a Cyclops, is he? No, the Cyclops is the dudes that you ally with. What's this dude called? Can't remember. But he's basically a mutated Cyclops. What a sick dude. It's from ATO Trespass Odyssey, mate. And then the third one that you mainly fight in this chapter is called the Chimera Metastasius, which is a big model that I didn't bring over. I'm not going to paint that one yet. This guy is another one of the dudes that chases you around. He's called the Burden. Sisyphus used to roll a rock up a hill over and over. Well, this guy is the rock that Sisyphus was forced to roll up the hill over and over. It's a tremendous retelling of Greek mythology, I have to say. There's a little dude hiding there. Yeah, what a cool guy. So we're definitely going to paint him. We need to paint these. These are the ones we need to paint. I should probably paint those dudes so I can play some stuff. So in the game, you play as Titans. So the Titans are big people that you control with your mind. It's fucking Pacific Rim meets Greek history. It's the best. So here's some of the Titans you can play as in that era. these are some of the Titans we need to paint. This guy's called a Warkeeper. Warkeeper Titan. This is this guy's here. I can't remember this guy, but he was my favourite dude to play because he doesn't get reduction in his movement from anything. In the game, right? And so this is again, this game blew me away when I played it. I spent a fucking long time playing this game. In the game, the Greek gods are dead, and so you wake up at the start of the very first chapter, and you come out of a a thing into a ship called the Argo, the Argonauts, right? So you're one of the Argonauts, and the Argonauts have the ability to control Titans by fucking drifting with them like they do in Pacific Rim, which is sick. And so, as you play through the first chapter, right, you've just got these basic generic Titans, but you start to develop technology that allows you to create more aggressive Titans. But anyway, you also have the ability to capture a fraction of the essence of the Greek gods, who are all dead and gone now, but they still are out there in the world in part. And so every now and then, when your dude's about to die, you can have this thing happen, which is called an awakening. So you become a part of the god for a period of time. And in this fucking game, you get to be Zeus and fucking Ares and Poseidon and all this shit for like 2 turns. So this is a Titan that's turned into Zeus. And he's got a fucking thunderbolt that he hits people with. It's epic. God form is like one of the sickest things that happens in the game. When it happens, you just go fucking apeshit. And so your Titans are fighting these guys, and normally it's pretty rough going. They belt the shit out of you, but every now and then you get to awaken and you get to belt the shit out of them, and it's so sick. This guy's called an Earth Shaker. I definitely need to paint him because he's pretty much a mainstay of most of my things. This guy's called a Game Changer. He's a bit harder to get, but here he is jumping on a trireme and fucking some dudes up. Like the Game Changer. This guy is called... no, he's from the 3rd cycle. I don't need to paint him. This guy's a Logic Breaker. He's not my favourite, actually, in terms of what he brings. He's not my favourite. But we'll paint him, probably. So they're basically, the premise of the Titans is that when you defeat these champions in battle, you learn from their technology, and so this is a Titan that we have taken the burdens stuff, and he's walking around with a fucking giant bowl. What a sick guy! It's pretty good. Alright, so we're definitely going to paint... I think today we should just paint this guy. What do you reckon? I can't remember his name, but I'll find it out. I'm just going to do it. I'm excited to get in and play some more of this game. It was a really great experience. Any major gaps I need to fill? I think I want to just do fuck all. Fuck all. Let's do it. I need to paint this. I need to paint this. I need to paint this. Do I paint the Hecaton in that? No, I don't. Need to paint that. Need to paint these champions. Logic Breaker, Maze Runner, Earth Shaker. So the game is just fucking wild. They really are good for PVC. Look at this one. This is Apollo. They're really good. They're really good models. They're very close to Clumini or not for their PVC. Very close. They could even be better in some instances. Like this is a fucking epic model, and the detail on it for PVC is fucking wild. So, all right. We're not going to try. I'm going to undercoat this right now, and then I'll keep talking. I'll be back in a second, champions. Here, look at this guy and this guy. Great angles, Deno. This is the other one I need to paint for Chapter 2, friends. They're on Kickstarter right now, Kung Fu. Get in there, mate. This is the other one I need to paint. So this is a Chimera Metastasios. And if you're familiar with Greek mythology, the Chimera is a three-headed beast that has a snake head, a lion head, and another head of some description that I can't remember. Well, their premise with this game, and I'll explain this in a second, their premise with this game is that the Chimera is actually a living sludge. It's ambrosia that's alive. Goat, thank you, Tops. Yeah, it's a alive sludge. And so this is like a temple that has been swallowed up by this black sludge that is being carried around the board. Crazy rules for this fight, right? Absolutely crazy rules. One of the things you can do in this game that you can't do in many others is a thing called vantage points. So this little section here is actually a spot that you plug something in, and you have a spot where your titans can climb up onto it. And so you can actually be pounding on the monster while you're climbing up it. Sounds crazy, right? This one's the first one that actually really implements it. There's a monster in the first cycle that does it called the doesn't matter. I won't spoil it because it's a little bit of a spoiler. The second one, this is one of the main dudes you fight, so you basically get to play vantage points, and this guy is actually really weak to vantage points. You climb your dudes up on him, he has 2 vantage points, so you can have 2 dudes climbing up on him, pounding him. However, you can then also get swallowed by the sludge, and you can be inside the sludge and kicking his ass from the inside, but you can also die from that. So this fight's really mad, and you get equipment like grappling hooks that lets you fucking jump up there quicker. In the third cycle, there's a monster you fight which has 3 levels that you climb up. So each vantage point you have to climb up to get higher and higher, and the higher up you are, the easier it is to fight, and the more vulnerable you are to a certain attack that it does. So it's very, very cool. So this is another one of the vantage points. So that's just a normal thing, but you can actually do it so that as you play the game, when you unlock a vantage point, because you need to basically reveal them, you can take this off and replace it with a vantage point where you can put your fucking dude. I never bothered with that. I just there's a little thing on their sheet. So yeah, I don't remember what this guy's name is. I'm gonna go look it up. This model is my favourite model, I think. This is the Icarian Harpy. Icarian Harpy. What a fucking model. It's wild. It's feathers, it's fucking tentacles, It's great musculature. It's very cool. This one's another crazy one. This dude's the Sun Keeper. I can't remember his name. He's good. He's a not fun fight. He's one of the hardest fights. But this guy's fucking banger. The Burden. It's good. It's a fucking good game, I've got to tell you. I'm frothing about it now, just excited about fucking painting some stuff for it, actually. How good. Alright, let's paint this guy. How are we going to paint him? Let's fucking hurry this drying up. We may change Aeon Trespass Odyssey Sundays to Aeon Trespass Odyssey Sundays and have... Oh yeah, Moonstone. Yeah. I backed the very first Kickstarter that was on about 7 years ago. I have quite a few of their figures, or I did have quite a few of their figures. I use them on my fairy garden. Great figures, yeah. They are they're pretty special, actually. Some of the more unique figures in the kind of a whimsical aesthetic. Yeah, it's been around a while, mate. I feel like they sort of let's talk about that in a second. I feel like they sort of missed an opportunity. They had a really big kickoff. Like, everyone was talking about Moonstone, and I think they had Angel Geraldez paint some figures, or maybe it wasn't Angel, maybe it was someone else, but they were really, really big for a while there, and then they just sort of haven't really done anything or capitalised on that. Like, I still, maybe it's just because it's maybe it's bigger in the UK. Fuck you, Deno. Maybe it's bigger in the UK. I don't know. Yeah, Shatterpoint's an interesting one. All the guys I play MCP with are just frothing it. They're like, Deno, let's fucking play Shatterpoint. Woo! Benny's playing Shatterpoint, or he's painting models for it. I'm just not a fucking guy that gets that excited about Star Wars. Like, I like Star Wars, don't get me wrong. It's good. I like Star Wars, but I don't need to go ham on it. I've got 100 odd models of MCP up there, but if enough of them play it and they're like, it's fucking great, Dano, get in. No doubt I'll have a crack. Did you play MCP, Top? It's got a lot of... Oh, can I tell ya? I was trawling for something to watch the other day, and I had it was in the top 2 choices. I was tossing up between Andor and something else, and in the end I decided on the something else, and then I didn't watch much of it anyway. So, game any answer. It's a real shame. Oh, I'm so jazzed about painting these dudes. Yeah, Shatterpoint draws a lot from MCP. A little bit. Alright, let's think about how we want to paint these models. What approach do I want to use for the skin? It's got a fairly grimy aesthetic. So I think we'll go for... Do we go for magenta undertones? How much have I got in this paint bottle? I've got to start thinking about some of these paints. I can't just use them whenever I want, like this one. Rojo Khalid's. I'm running out of and you can't buy it anymore. So it's got to be a little careful. Yes, that is a second element that I had considered. There's not a lot of fun to be derived from painting Star Wars figures. With the exception of a few Jedi, I would imagine. The MCP minis are tremendous. I mean, I just painted 100 of them. So take it from me, they're a blast. The models are dynamic and interesting. Look, we're not benching it. I'm just not feeling it right now. I've done a bad job on the first one, and it's crushed my enthusiasm a little bit. I feel like I can't paint at the moment, so we're just gonna do a little muck around with this gear, and we'll go from there. I'll show you what I've done because it's not that bad, but this is where the first one's at. Yeah. So I'm just not feeling it is all. I'm just like, this is fucking colour palette, I don't know. I usually stick with a couple of key colours, and then I'll stick with a skin tone palette. So I'll always paint with the same palette of skin tone colours. So in this instance, yeah, we're gonna paint a very specific skin colour, and I'll replicate that skin colour on probably every other model in the range that I paint. But yeah, I mean, you got so many different models in a game like this that you don't want to get bored painting them. So limiting yourself and your palette is probably not the way I would go. Alright, I think we might switch over to brush for just a little bit. Weigh in some colours. I need a big brush. Oh, that's a big brush. Oh yeah. Is it too big? There's no such thing. Well, there is, but maybe not for this. He's a monster, mate. He's got people to help him with that. This is too big a brush. Alright, I'll just stick with this one then. So remember, friends, painting board game minis, it's a vastly different experience. We focus on high contrast. We do a lot more airbrush tricks. I have indeed used Chimera paints, yes. I have every Chimera paint released thus far, and I do intend on purchasing the new ones that have been added. Are they worth the money? That's an interesting question. What they bring to the table is a very, very strong pigment, and from that perspective, I think they're very good value for money. However, most other miniature paints on the market have a few little additives which make them a little bit more user friendly. So when you crank on with a little Vallejo or a little Citadel, what you tend to get is a slightly satin finish or a more controllable blend because of they had a little bit of medium and what have you. When you use Chimera models, Chimera paints, they are ultra matte. They have no additives. It's purely pigment and binder, and so it is not a fun experience the first time you use them, because you're like, wow, that transition just looks like absolute bastards. That looks so bad. But what you get is pure pigment and incredibly strong pigment. So they're extremely good product, but I would consider more advanced than some of the other paints on the market. So no, I would not recommend them to a starting painter. But if you are confident with your ability to mix paints, or understand how paint works, or wanting to challenge yourself a little bit, then absolutely they are worth the money. So take from that what you will. I have every single one of them ever released, and every model that I paint includes several Chimera colours. But they're a more advanced paint range. Which now that I think about it, sounds kind of dumb, right? But that's genuinely how I feel. They're challenging to use. Top's got them. Do you agree with my assessment, Top? Minimancer, your velvet approach looks significantly better on the second crack. But the question that you must ask yourself is, do you feel that way? Do you see that? Good. gonna piss me off. G'day, Necromancer. Look, if most of your experience is with scale colour, you'll probably find the transition to Chimera easier because they're more like scale colour than probably any other product out there. In terms of the matte finish and how they operate. But I don't recommend scale colour much these days. I don't really use them. All that much. Yep. Much more saturated. Ugh. Hello there, Sleepy Slang. And yes, hello to all of the toy soldier painters and wonderful enjoyers of this hobby. I think there's only 2 scale colour paints that I have sitting over here on my colours that I use. One of which is orange leather. Now I should make a distinction. Scale colour and scale fantasy are 2 different product lines. The scale fantasy, I have a number of colours over here, and I use them regularly. Scale colour, no, not as much. Red, yeah, that's very, very good. Red oxides, incredible. The entirety of the Pazarski paint set I use all the time. So yeah, there's definitely colours in there that work really well just from the get-go, but it'll just take a little bit of time to get used to, that's all. Kaitachi set, I use the skin tone, but I don't use it that much. It's not my number one go-to. Oh, Dano, you're a legend. This is a great thing about being me. You just pick up the fucking brush and go, you know what, I'm going to paint this guy now. There's no feelings like, oh, Dano, you should be doing your other project, mate. You got to fucking do it. Paint what you're excited about, friends. It's just a fun hobby. Do your thing. Yeah, the fantasy range for scale is a satin finish range, which is a noticeable difference. This is a miniature from Aeon Trespass Odyssey. I can't fucking think of the name. It's like Cyclops or something like that. Fucking, it's killing me. I could literally go and look in the rulebook. Someone could go and look on the Kickstarter page. But I'm painting, so I'll just do my painting. now we're going to grab Elf Flesh, which is a board game, which is a game air colour, and I like this colour for my homogenizing layer of cleaning up my shit. Cleaning up my shit paint job. Good. Sam Squatch, Cyclonus, thank you, champion. It's one of my favourite fights that you can play in Aeon Trespass Odyssey, actually. I fought him a lot. Unfortunately, his Titan that you get, the Warkeeper, is not my favourite. But he's a very fun fight. He uses a thing called combos. Combo. And you need to bring specific weapons that you can exhaust to break combos at the certain times, and you can't break combos from certain positions and stuff. Yeah, here's Hecaton. He's pretty good. It's a fucking great fight. I love it. Alright, let's get into some Volupus Pink. No, I'm not allowing that. And then we might just whip a little bit of peanut butter on there. And then I think we will use a little bit of the old Volupus Pink as a contrast paint, as it's intended as well. Well, I guess it would be nice if I could touch your body. I know not everybody's got a body like you, so I gotta think twice. Give up my hard way. I know not all the games you play, 'cause I play them too. Cyclonus, what a guy. Alright, before we do that, let's whip some stuff on the base. Let's use a Chimera colour for the base. Dark greeny colour. Maybe we'll do this one. And then we will mix in this one? No. Actually, that's a colour I should use more. The golden brown from Chimera is very good too. Brown. There we go. Not going to be able to do tufts on these guys because the tufts would be wildly out of proportion, but that's probably okay. There's a Greek temple at the foot of this guy's feet. What a great story. What a story, Mark. I got some, but even they'll be out of scale. Some fucking big grass. Alright, what's the right colour for that? You can stop now. I want a shrubbery! Yes, that's the right colour. Nee. We're all old enough to get that reference, right? Maybe you're not top. Fresh out of high school. Sure you have. Sure you have, guy. I believe you. Alright, Deno, future Deno, in case you're wondering. You've gone with ground brown and whatever that fallen grass for the base. And then you're highlighting the temples with light sea grey. And then you're going to give it a wash of something. We'll figure that out in a second. We are the knights who say, nee, nee. And the aptly named Sir not appearing in this film. No, I have not really tried any other contrast variations, no. I'm not a very interesting person, unfortunately. I find something I like and I stick with it. When I go out to restaurants that I've been to before, unless I'm feeling very, very adventurous, I'll just order the same thing I ordered last time. Because I'm a man who knows what he wants and knows what he likes. And that is something to be applauded. Not ridiculed. So don't ridicule me, or I'll come to your house and fight you. No, I would never do that. Alright. It's time to use some black on this. So this little thing down here is a cage. And inside the cage is prisoners. And one of the hit locations that you can hit on this guy is the prisoner cage. And you have the choice to go through with your attack, and you unfortunately lose some of your humanity, or you can avoid your attack, not wound the monster, and save the people. But you can critically hit the location, which means you save them. So it's a wonderful choice that you have. Another of the many. Yeah, this is why I just decided to do it, mate. I'm keen to get a playthrough going of this campaign. It's a great game. I have nothing but positive things to say about the game. It's my game of the year for this year, and it's May. I don't have an awful lot of other games coming this year, though, I don't think. So g'day, Paul. Hey, Paul. The Cyclonus. Well, look, mate. I can't make any promises, but I'm a champion who, when I set my mind to something, it goes. It goes like the clappers. So likely, I'll go into a furious painting rage over the next few days. Paint up all the stuff I need, and I'll probably start it by next weekend. But look, let's not count our chickens. It'd be good to get something up before the campaign ends. Support those guys and all the work they do, making my game of the year for this year. Yeah, I think we'll go true, mate. It's just easier for board game minis. Sure is, mate. Sure is. Now, one of the cool things about the game... G'day, Gonazal. One of the cool things about the game is there is a colour palette for each cycle. So the colour palette for the first cycle is brown. The colour palette for this cycle is red. Cycle 2 is red, so we're just going to paint a little bit of red for this little roby thing. Alright. Alright, let's figure out what contrast paints we use for the base. Probably Cygor Brown is always a good option. And then what's another dirty colour? You dirty rat. You killed my brother. Do we just go Dark Angels green maybe? Probably a little bit too saturated, don't I? It's a bit too saturated. What's the other green? What's the other green there? Fuck, sorry. The green. The other one, what's it called? Creed Camo. Yes. It's happening. Creed Camo and Cygor Brown. Looks like I'm just about out of Creed Camo. That's a shame. If only I had a... Oh, we are actually fully out of that bad boy. Fuck all. It's alright. We'll just nip over the road and grab some. Don't overcomplicate your bases on board game figures, friends. It's so fucking easy to just whip a contrast paint over a painted colour, bang a couple of highlights, job done. And it just fucking looks good. Ooh, this is a strong one. Why am I singing the fucking original Superman scheme theme song? I have no idea why that's in my head. Am I calling myself Superman? Like, what is happening? Alright, let's grab out some of the red. The red. What are we at so far? About 45 minutes. Rock and roll. Oh, I was fucking around with this model for my diorama, but it's bad. It's just not looking good. So, I was unenthused. So I figured I'd paint something I was enthused by. We talked about that video a little earlier. I have played the entire first cycle twice, the entire second cycle twice, and the third cycle once. And as I talked about a little earlier, I am excited to play it again and record some videos, because it was not my experience that it was unlearnable or unplayable. It is absolutely probably the most complex game I think I've ever played, but I managed it solo reasonably well. It is without a doubt one of the more difficult experiences running it solo with 4 characters, but I made do. I got by. What colour am I looking for? That one. There's a bit of a furor about that Quackalope video, mate, which is interesting. So the symbols of. Let me give you a very, very brief overview of the core mechanic of the game. There's 3 phases in the game, right? There's the voyage phase, and then there's the I guess settlement phase, and then there's the combats, right? So the voyage phase is nothing unique and special. It's just very similar to Seventh Continent, where you are exploring a location that have tiles, and as you reveal more of the map, you learn more about the world. You have narrative elements that you go and read, and it tells you about why the world is the way it is, and blah blah blah. Tainted Grail, Seventh Continent, probably up there with the best stories that I've played, for sure. But nothing that's innovative and going to knock your socks off. The second phase is the settlement phase, if you will. So you are members of a ship called the Argo, for those that are familiar with Greek history, the Argonauts. And your initial premise is, and why you need to fight the big monsters. G'day, Butt Pocket Cock Rocket. Welcome, champion. Is your ship requires a thing called ambrosia to travel. It's fuel. And the only way to get ambrosia is by hunting these creatures, which are called primordials. So the Argo is a gigantic ship, bigger than every other ship out there. It's the size of a city. And when you wake up, it's kind of like the Matrix, where you don't really know what's happening. You've forgotten everything, and you don't actually know too much about the ship. So you are both investigating the ship and learning about it, as well as traveling around the world and learning about the world. So the ship itself is your settlement, and you upgrade the ship, explore the deeper reaches of the ship, and find out more about, first of all, why you've been woken up and why you're fighting against the primordials and blah blah blah. But you will upgrade your things like Titan storage, how many Titans you can have. You can learn techniques for training Titans, have more aggressive Titans, etc., etc. So that part of the phase, again, nothing really unique here. Like, we're talking about a very similar premise to Kingdom Death Monster, where you have technologies that you're researching that's creating different things for you to do, and so on and so forth. Now, where the main thrust of the game is the battle phase, the combats, and you're required to fight monsters every 7 days, with the premise that the ship needs fuel. So you have to fight the monsters to get fuel for the ship, otherwise you can't travel. That's the reason why they make you do it, but really it's to fucking make you fight shit. But anyway, so your whole combat phase is really fascinating, and it's the meat of the game. It's the heart of the game. Your Titans that you control are separate from your Argonauts. So the Argonauts are the dudes who control them by taking over their brains, just like they do in fucking Pacific Rim. That's what this game is. It's Pacific Rim. It's the best. G'day RS London, it's going well, champion, thank you. So yeah, when you set up to fight a primordial, whether it's this guy or a different guy, you get to pick what Titans you bring to the fight, and each of the Titans have a different thing called a Kratos pool, or a Kratos chart, something like that. Can't remember the specific name, but and that chart. Oh, thanks, mate. That chart is actually what sort of differs each Titan from the others, and the way that it works, it uses a paradigm they like to call the inverted combat paradigm. So when you fight normal games, the normal premise of a combat is, as you get weaker and weaker, your attacks get less effective. It gets harder and harder to kill the monster, which is what creates the tension, right? You're like, oh, am I going to get it done, or is it going to be fucking bad? But the issue with that is your attacks are getting weaker and you're not doing cool shit, right? It's sort of the opposite to, having a climax. I use some Scale 75, mate. We were just talking about it earlier. The paint range, the Scale Fantasy range, is a very big part of my painting, but the Scale color range, not so much. So with this game, they have this thing called the inverted combat paradigm, and so every Titan that you're controlling has a thing. It's called a Triskelion. It's a lot of fucking words in this game, right? And all it is it's a little dial that starts out at 0 for all of your stats, and as you make an attack, you increase your Titan's rage stat, and that allows you to access different abilities on your Kratos chart. So the more attacks you make, the more abilities you have access to. And so it's called the inverted combat paradigm, because the way that it works is you start off the fight trying to build up your strength, and you end the fight doing fucking mad dog attacks and crazy shit, and stuff's blowing up everywhere. So it's an inversion of what combats are normally like. And so that's a cool premise. It's a really cool premise. And it works. Like when you play it, that's what you feel like is happening. You feel like you're building up, and then all of a sudden, the last few turns are just like going Super Saiyan mode. So the fiddliness comes from those Kratos charts, tables. Every Titan in the latter stages of the game has a different chart, and every Argonaut that you're using is at a different level on their sheet in terms of what abilities they can access. So the actual mental upkeep of keeping track of, okay, where's this guy on his chart, what abilities can I access, etc., is pretty significant. And then you also have to account for the fact that the monsters themselves also have their own unique stats and abilities and stuff, as I'm sure you can imagine. That creates a fair amount of mental load to stay on top of everything. But when you reach that point where you're like, cool, I know what this guy's chart is, I know what abilities I can get, I'm trying to get to level 3 so that I can do this thing, it just becomes fucking awesome. Really, really awesome. Ugh. Okay. Alright, now we go in for the pinnacle, the moment of truth, the thing that makes everything look good. Just little pop highlights. So yeah, I am very excited to play a campaign of this. It's been a little while since I played it. I packed it up in Feb. Haven't played it since. But yeah, the new Kickstarter's out now for a sequel called 12 Sins of Heracles. And I'm jazzed. Okay, let's go. Maybe just do a tiny little airbrush at the end, I think. Hey, can I just make an observation about something that I do that I think other people should do more? And that is just not necessarily, I'm not saying that you need to do this every time, but not necessarily waiting for the layer beneath you have painted to dry before you start cracking on. Yeah, sometimes having a little bit of wet paint underneath, the area that you're working on, that you can just pull from and just grab a little bit of colour. It creates a little bit more of a transition. It's just a simple little bit of a tiny little bit of colour. Yeah, a little bit of natural variation for free without having to do anything. That's nice. That can be good. Yeah, a little bit of wet blending. Why not? Get amongst it. I mean, it's a piece of cake, right? You just got a tiny little bit of paint. Bang. Grab a little bit. Move on. Little Bobby Dazzler. Off you go. I'm not saying you need to do it all the time, but yeah, just don't be afraid of it. You know, like this little back bit here that I'm working on now. I've got a little bit of paint in there. Just going to pull some of that. It's A-okay, friends. Get into it. You know what I'm saying? G'day, Hecaton. Beautiful Adelaide. One of my bosses came up to visit me this week, and he lives in Adelaide. I've been there on several occasions. Don't have a lot of positive things to say about it. It's a shit town. Nah, it's alright. It's just pretty boring, really. This guy is called a Cyclonus. He's from Aeon Trespass Odyssey. He is absolutely ship fuel, yep. We hunt this guy to fuel the ship and to research technology that we can use to improve our Titans. Thank you, champion. It's taken us an hour so far. I came up with a highlight colour for red the other week that I really liked. I use a lot on my MCP models. It was using a green. Really looked good. It's pistachio. So I want to do it here. Yeah, it just looks really cool. Let's do it. Pistachio. I know it looks like it's going to be weird, but let's just do a tiny little bit of colour theory. everyone knows the complementary colour of red is green. And so, by highlighting red with a green, you get a very interesting effect, because green mixed with red will actually desaturate the colour. Desaturating it means adding grey. Will make the colour look more grey. Now normally that's not a good thing, but what you do is you create a second layer of contrast, of variety, because you are not just using value, but you are also using saturation to create different looks. Pistachio is a good colour. It's very, very, very strong, but very good. So yeah, you can see that the green actually starts to shape a little bit more towards orange. So we won't go overboard with the last highlights, but you still want to look red. But yeah, if you then hit this with just a very thin red wash, looks awesome. Looks super red and interesting. Alright, let's just do this black base rim. And then I reckon we'll get into some metals. Oh, do those little bits. We just want a very neutral base, and I've also gone for cold colours so it doesn't take the focus off the model. This light sea grey is very good for adding a bit of value but also staying quite cold. It's a good colour actually, Vallejo colour. Probably don't use it enough in general, but Cyclonus! Alright, let's do some fucking metal bits. I think I'm actually gonna have to pull my metals out of my tray. I don't think I've used them for a while. I have not. Black metal. Job done. No, not gunmetal. Where's my silver at? Where's my silver at? Da, da, da. Oh, there it is. Steel. The riddle of steel. Fuck, Conan's a good movie, eh? Or is it? When was the last time you watched it, Deno? It's been a long time since I've watched it. It could actually be a trash film. I would not be able to tell you with any truth or certainty that it was a good film. Because it's been so long since I've watched it. Alright, let's get some prisoners in their cages. Let's get some chains. Are these big swinging ball things supposed to be metal or rock? I'm not sure. One of the things you can do in the game is you can critically hit locations such as the left maul fist or right maul fist on this guy. And that can give you weapons and items. And I never once in every fight knocked this guy's fists off and got to use them. It was my favourite fight and I never once did it. I critical just about every other fucking location. Like I critically rescued the fucking prisoners and all sorts of shit, but never once got his maul fist. Which is annoying. So friends, if you decide to join me next Sunday morning, which is one short week away, yeah, man, that'd be awesome. I don't even know if it's good. I have a little rule with myself. I don't look at something unless I've done it. So I don't even know what they do. I've never once looked at them. Yes, it's very possible that we may start a YouTube playthrough next Sunday. I'll do it on stream. Play the first game on stream, maybe. There is rules for setting up for a campaign just straight from Cycle 2, and that's what we're going to do, because I've played Cycle 1 several times, twice, and I enjoyed it, but I think Cycle 2 is where the game really hits its straps, and you really get to see what's great about it. Alright, I need to add another colour to the list, I think. Need to add this fucking bad boy. Steel. Vallejo Model Air Steel, friends. Up there with the all-time colours. Get yourself some of this if you don't have it. Outstanding colour. Thank you, mate. I try to do the Sunday morning stream to catch a few Americans live, and then the Monday night streams catches the Europeans and the Aussies at a prime watching time. So. Fuck, I gotta tell you. True Metals is so easy and it looks so good. Why don't I paint more True Metals? True Metals is so good. So good! Alright, I might just grab a little bit of this. For his mouth. Is it though? Is it? That. A bit in this area. Bang. Do we want to do these little bits in metal? I don't think so. I think they're supposed to be metal, but we might just leave them. Just leave them in a bit of red. Yeah, so we were talking a little bit about paints before. I'm a pretty boring guy. I find stuff that I like and I stick with it. So I haven't really branched out in my painting colours much in a while. The Chimera colours, the Scale colours, Scale Fantasy, Vallejo. It's pretty much it. Okay, let's go. And then we're going to use Agaros Dunes for our metal. Stand by. Bad call with Agaros Dunes. I don't think so. Let's see how it looks. Maybe we do need to go the darker one. Snakebite leather maybe. Alrighty. Cool. We'll give that a little bit to dry. We'll give it a varnish and then we'll do another highlight on the metals and we'll call it a day. While we're waiting for that to dry though, we might just tweak the skin a little bit. A few little bits. Just a little bit of highlight. So if you haven't seen my my video series on Oathsworn, you can go and have a look at my YouTube channel. But I did a little painting series on painting board game figures for a game called Oathsworn. Also a tremendous game that I enjoyed. Won't be my game of the year because this one is. But the key, in my opinion, as always, my opinion, not my fact. Board game figures just need to look good on the table, and we can do a better job of that by over highlighting and creating more pops of colour and not getting caught up in the little details. You know, we're painting board games figures so we can get models on the table and have a fun time. So the key is not agonizing over the minutiae. The key is nail the important areas, the areas that everyone sees, and then just fucking jobby up the rest. So this chap, I've spent a huge amount of time on his skin, comparatively, and very little time on anything else. The skin is the part that everyone's going to see when they see this figure. We nail that, everything else is easy. But I did go through quite a few techniques that you can use to speed up things on those videos, and I go through a few of my approaches towards things like leather, like metal, so on and so forth. Thank you, mate. Well, I'm a fucking letdown after Richard Gray, let me tell you. That guy's a fucking legend. That's it. Let's give this a fucking... I'm going to go varnish this, friends, but I'll be back in a second. Don't go anywhere. My varnish ran out, but we got most of him done. Of course. The magnificent TS80, mate. There is nothing else. We serve no other master than TS80. What master do you serve? I'm going to say Jesus. It's a quote from Avengers Infinity War, friends. In case you missed it. Are you really? So you haven't seen Quantum Mania? You haven't seen Guardians? What was the other one? Okay. Well, I don't think you're missing a lot with Black Panther. That was a tough film for him to try and nail after poor Chadwick. But I thought Guardians was fantastic. And I enjoyed the other one. Blunden, it's a good question, champion. So it actually does a couple of little things, but it's nothing overt. The first thing that it does is it gives you a better idea of the volumes on the model. So when you have a grey figure, right, you don't get really a full sense of the detail. Whereas, and the same with a black, right? So when you have a black figure, you don't really see all of the little nuances. When you spray the white from above, it lets you really understand how all the volumes work and interact together. So that's the first thing it does. The second thing is a little bit more technical. So if you go and paint a colour, any colour, over a black undercoat and then over a white undercoat, you'll basically get a different colour. Because none of the pigments that we use in miniature painting are really all that strong. And so there's always a level of translucency which you get from stuff underneath. And so when you have a white undercoat, you will get a much brighter version of a colour than you would over a black undercoat. So by using the white, what's called a zenithal prime, you actually get to see a more vibrant and intense version of colours over the white areas than you do over the black areas. And this creates a shading without really having to do anything, because the darker areas, the areas that are in shadow, are generally the ones that the airbrush can't hit. It's perfect for contrast paints and washes, yeah. And if you look into a technique called slap chop, that's basically the fundamental principle of slap chop, is using that light and dark to create the majority of your paintwork, and then using your contrast paints over the top of it. What I do is sort of the next evolution of that, or evolution is the wrong word. It's taking that to another level, which is using the contrast paints and the zenithal priming to then create more depth of shadow, more depth of color quickly, using normal paints as well. There you go, friends. One little champion done in about just an hour. Just an hour. You're welcome, champion. I try to explain everything on here and do a bad job most of the time. Oh, did they? I need to go read this immediately. Where did they do it, Top? Oh, he posted the comments. Classic. Classic. I'm in the wrong game, friends. I should be doing fucking board game videos by the sounds of it. What the fuck? Oh, it's gonna be a good news day, friends. Get your popcorn out. Oh. Sell out, sell out. I love it, mate. I love it. That all I said, Top. I said it's silly. I said it's dumb. All I said is don't let yourself get drawn into it. You don't need to be a part of the problem, mate. But I love reading about it. No, I've had a number of people offer that, and I've said no because I just want to speak truthfully about how I feel about things. Interesting. Interesting. It's so interesting. I love it. I love it. What are the comment section saying on the fucking Kickstarter? It's gold. It's gold, I tell you. It's internet gold. How did they find this fucking statement? I wonder if it's on. Is it on BGG? Mate, scale 75 have had a few fucking misses. So's AK Interactive actually, but scale 75's big miss was they made some figures off artwork without getting approval from the artist, without providing stuff. The main one was Mary Reed. G'day Saint Tubus. Yeah, exactly, and that triggered the no piracy thing. And then, but AK did a whole series on the Auschwitz and stuff, and yeah, created a bit of a furor over it and their insensitivity regarding it. Yeah, it wasn't a good look for him. I think, without going into it too much, friends, there's a saying I like: those who ignore history are doomed to repeat it. So I think it's important that we are open and transparent about things that have happened in the past, and we shouldn't shy away from that sort of material. But it's important that it's handled respectfully, and that's probably where the question mark is whether it was handled respectfully or not. But I do think it's my opinion that the scale 75 stuff was more egregious and more harmful to people, to actual people living, creating now than the AK was. The AK stuff was just in bad taste and wasn't respectful of the things. We don't want to glorify hate crimes. Ultimately, let's try and avoid that as people, shall we? Just as a pro tip for young punters out there. Yeah. Just going to look up some we can go and raid, so I can go and sit down and have a good time reading all of the drama. Have they fixed the tags yet? Exactly, right, and yeah, and that's why I say that AK didn't really, it wasn't anywhere near as bad as the Scale 75 stuff, because what they did was they just fucked up with how they handled the situation. They could have said, we acknowledge that this material is sensitive and has impacts for a number of people, but it's an important part of our history, and we wanted to produce products that were reflective of that era, in all of its good and bad elements. But yeah, they sort of doubled down and were a bit stupid in how they responded to the negativity. But yeah, it is what it is, friends. Who we got painting? There's a dude painting Lionel Johnson. I'm going to go and have a look at that champion, because I don't think I've seen him before. Oh, some people. Zodiac Mother. Let's paint a roaming monster. Let's see. Haunted Miniatures. What are you doing, champion? Yeah, mate, they were up till fucking 3 a.m. last night on the Team Stainbeard channel, posting memes and doing shit. So he's unlikely to get on today. My guy, you need to use a bigger brush. You're killing me. 2:30 a.m. Good night, Sleepy Slang. All right, we're gonna raid. We're gonna raid this guy, Haunted Miniatures. I've never seen him before. I'm sure he's a top bloke. Let's get in. Let's get in and give him a raid and support the champion. Back tomorrow with Bucks. I'll probably be back on the diorama, but who knows? Maybe we'll paint some more Aeon Trespass Odyssey. You're wonderful people. Thank you for sharing some time with me today. Be good to each other. Thank you. Goodbye.